Hi, I'm back. Miss Tracy, we're going to talk today. I've got some interesting stories for you. I think you'll like them. We're going to learn some stuff. So let me get on my slide and share with you so we can, amazing facts and finds with me, Miss Tracy. Hello, I hope you had a good week. I had a good week. It's already Wednesday. Too fast, too fast. Okay, so if you've listened to Miss Madeline's lesson, you've heard about the woman at the well, the Samaritan woman. And she told you about how it was shocking. It was shocking that Jesus would first talk to a woman, because in that time, men and women didn't talk. We'll get to that. And also in that time, Jewish people did not like the Samaritans. They didn't like them at all. So this story is crazy, everything that's going on. Not only is Jesus talking to a woman, the woman he's talking to is an outcast in her own society. She's at the well in the middle of the day because she's not welcome with the other women. And so Jesus is there. This woman who's unwelcome is there. She's a Samaritan. And then Jesus talks to her, and it's like, why all of these bad feelings about women and about Samaritans? Well, we're going to talk about the Samaritans first. Who were the Samaritans? Okay, funny you asked. So remember our Israelites, they were descended from Abraham. God had made his covenant with Abraham, his promise. They had ended up with Joseph in Egypt. Moses brings them out of Egypt. And they had to wander around the wilderness for 40 years because their hearts aren't right. They keep looking around and doing things they're not supposed to do, kind of like we do. And God was not happy with them. He told them to go take the promised land, and they came back and said, no, we can't do it, even after all the things they'd seen God do, amazing things. So time goes by, and after Moses dies and that generation that didn't believe died, God allows them to go into the promised land. And when they got there, they would be good, and then they'd be bad, and they'd be good, and then they'd be bad, kind of like us, right? So over time, the Israelites complained and grumbled, and they had judges. After Moses and Joshua, they had judges. After the judges, they wanted to be like everybody else around them. And God wanted them to be above and separate and an example. They wanted to be like everybody else. And they wanted kings. And God warned them, you won't like it. It's not going to be good. They wanted a king. So God gave them a king, because God will do that. God knows what's best for us, but if we keep going after things we're not supposed to do, he'll let us have them. And then bad things happen, and then we know what we did wrong. That's kind of the story of the Israelites, story of people. So who are these Samaritans? So back to the kings. They had their kings. They had Saul and David and Solomon, and then it starts falling apart because God warned them, you're not going to like it with the kings. He knew what he was talking about, because he knows yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So these Samaritans, who are they? I'm going to get there. Hang with me. So the Israelites' kingdom, the Jewish kingdom, split and formed two kingdoms. One was bad, two's going to be worse. So you had the southern kingdom, that was Judah. That's where Jerusalem was. So this northern kingdom was a group of the Israelites that went there, and they did bad things. They were doing bad things. Their kingdom lasted 201 years before the Assyrians were captured them. God just turned them over to it. He just turned them over to the Assyrians, and they came in and carried them off and brought in a bunch of foreigners in. In this kingdom here, in the northern kingdom, there were 19 kings. Not one was righteous or right with God. None of them. And we kind of talked briefly about Elisha, the prophet of fire. He went to these people, and he was the one that had the encounter with the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel. That was this group of people, okay? So when God said, enough's enough, and he let the Assyrians come in, they took the Israelites away, and then they brought foreigners in to hold this land. And then the remaining Jews intermarried with them. And so God had intended for his people to not intermarry with other people, that they were to be his people and a certain people. But these people in the northern kingdom intermarried, and they became known as the Samaritans, okay? So they just, according to the southern Jews, had just corrupted. They had kind of like mishmashed all of their religions. They had like a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and they just mushed it all in. And the southern kingdom was just like, no, that's not our people. It's kind of interesting. The southern kingdom's not doing so hot either. They were doing their own issues. They end up being taken by the Babylonians and Daniel and all that stuff, right? So nobody's doing a good job. But these guys over here, the southern kingdom, think they are up here, and they look down on the northern kingdom, and they start to think of them as really, really bad people. And sometimes when we're looking down on other people and we think they're really bad, we're being bad, right? It's kind of what happens with the southern kingdom. So when the Babylonians allowed the Israelites to come back to the southern kingdom and start rebuilding, the Samaritans kind of still see themselves as relatives of the southern kingdom. The northern kingdom, even though the southern kingdom doesn't think a lot of them, they could still consider them family of sorts. And they offer to help. When they offer to help, the southern kingdom goes, we don't want your help. That's a problem. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And so then that starts bad feelings between them. And there were other stories. The southern kingdom had their temple, and then the northern kingdom built their temple, and it all was a rival, and it was just like a big family feud. But over time, they really, really disliked each other. So hold that thought. What does a pig have to do with all this? The swine. Well, to the Jewish people, a pig was the embodiment of the worst. They were an unclean animal. And that really has some funny stories about the pig. The swine was the emblem of filthiness, but it was also kind of viewed as the richest or the luckiest or whatever, because it could find its food anywhere. It repopulated quickly. And so there was a lot of kind of mixed, weird feelings about swine, but they were not good. They were not clean. And the Jewish people didn't like the swine. There was a story, this just means a Jewish story. Don't worry about what that means. But there was a story, and it says it all of what they think. And I'll just read it to you. There were two brothers, one a wealthy magnate, the other a pauper, but a God-fearing person. When the poor brother's daughter was of marriageable age, he wended his way to his rich brother to ask him for assistance with the wedding expenses. The rich fellow was happy to see his brother again and invited him to a lengthy tour of his palatial home. After a while, though, the poor brother got tired of it, and he asked his brother to cut it short. The latter, cut off my tea. The latter brother, the rich brother, couldn't understand. Don't you enjoy the exquisite beauty of every corner of my house? The poor brother responded, there is a creature that wallows in the mud all day. If you ask what it wants, all it can think of is more mud. You too are sunk in the mud of material pleasures. Oh, my little spray boxes are in the way. Sorry about that. You too are sunk in the mud of material pleasures, and all you want is more mud and more possessions instead of focusing on the truly important things in life. That kind of reminds me of the northern and southern kingdom. They're supposed to be brothers, but they're kind of being unkind to each other. But I just kind of found that story, and I thought it was interesting. But I'm trying to get across the point that there's a lot going on here. There's this kind of bad feeling has grown, and it got worse and worse over time, because if you offer to do something nice for somebody and they kind of throw it back in your face and say, we don't want help from you. Or you go to ask somebody for help, and then, the one brother was showing off, obviously, right? He was obviously showing off. But it wasn't very nice of the one coming to ask for money to say, oh, you're just like a pig wallowing in the mud. That would have been very insulting. So this story kind of, to me, just kind of gives you a flavor for all that's going on, right? So women in Jewish time, in Jesus' time, okay, Miss Madeline might have mentioned this to you. They didn't talk. Women before Jesus' time in the Old Testament, you'd had Miriam, Aaron, and Moses' sister who had been a role. So there was a prophetess, she sat under the tree, Deborah, that's who it was, that sat under the tree, was very respected in her time. But somehow, as time passed, women became viewed as being less and less. And by the time we got to Jesus' time, whoops, men and women in Jesus' time, one Jewish passage perhaps, kind of tells it best. They are swathed like mourners, referring to face and hair coverings, isolated from people and shut up in prison. They hardly left their house. They were just like, your job is to be in the house and do your thing, and you don't go out. So we get back to, so how does all of this fit together? Let's see, we've got this southern and northern kingdom that don't like each other, that have grown to be really ugly and hateful to each other, kind of like the two brothers in the story. We've got the Jewish people don't like pigs. They view them as swine. There's a little tie in there together. So at the time of Jesus' encounter with the woman at the well, the Samaritan woman, he asked her for a drink of water. There was a Jewish saying that said, don't even take a drink. Don't eat a bite of food from a Samaritan. It's better, it's like eating a whole swine. So that's how badly the southern kingdom felt about the Samaritans, okay? So Jesus asking for a drink of water, if you think about it, he just didn't say, hey, hand me a drink of water. What was he going to drink out of? He was going to drink out of her water, her vessel, whatever it was, her cup, her water pail, whatever it was. He was going to be with the swine. And the Jewish people looked down on that just unbelievably. So what Jesus did with asking this woman who her own people didn't like her and didn't associate with her, what he did was he said, no, we're not going to treat people like this. This is not how it is. We don't treat women badly. And Jesus was known for how well women were treated in his ministry. Mary and Martha, Mary Magdalene, lots of women were part of Timothy's mother and grandmother. We'll get to him. But women had a prominent role in Jesus' ministry, that they were respected and they supported them and were there. Okay. And then Jesus wanted people to know that God loves everybody. God made everybody. God loves everybody. Okay. There's even a story where Peter has a dream that he's hungry and he wants to eat, and God lets it down a sheet and there's all this stuff on it. He said, I can't eat that. It's unclean. And this happens, I think, 3 times. And then God says, everything I make is clean. Now, it's not our job to judge. It's God's job to judge. So Jesus in this story was kind of saying, nope, I'm breaking all those barriers. You're not going to treat people badly. You're not going to treat women badly. And you're not going to treat that old pig badly either. My pig is good. My pig is clean. I made that pig. That's what God said. But Jesus and God are the same, right? Okay, so that's why these stories, we hear them, we go, so what? The Samaritan woman, the Good Samaritan, all of that, it means nothing to us until you know how bad the feelings were between these people. And that Jesus was saying, stops here. God loves everybody. And so I've got the Good Samaritan story here, because if you remember that story, it kind of reinforces what I'm telling you. God's ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts are higher than our ways. So the Good Samaritan story, if you remember, the Good Samaritan was the third person who came by that man that had been beaten and robbed. The third one. The other 2 were leaders in the Jewish community, a priest, and that they should have stopped and helped a fellow. But they passed by him because they don't want to become unclean. They don't want to deal with somebody that's going to get in their way, slow them down, cause them an inconvenience. But the Samaritan man stops, gets the poor man that had been beaten up, puts him on his donkey, takes him to the inn, takes care of him, and pays for him to be taken care of. So Jesus is saying, my way is that we love everybody, we take care of everybody, right? That's what Jesus is doing, telling us. And that we don't look on another group of people and say, you're below me. Because one thing in the Bible, we hear the biggest thing we hear in the Bible is God is love. God loves us. God is love. He loves all of us, the Samaritans, the swine, the women. He loves everybody. But there is one thing it talks about God hating. It said that God hates pride. It hates somebody, a haughty person, a prideful person that looks down on other people. And that's what the southern Jews were doing to the northern Jews, and that's what men were doing to women in this time. And God didn't like it. One of the things that God and Jesus both call for is to take care of the weak. And they say by name, take care of the widows and the orphans. The widows are women. God loves all of us. So I like this Bible verse for us to end. Micah 6:8. He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. So it's our job to walk with God, love God's people, be good to God's people, and to not be haughty. So I hope you have a good week. I'm looking forward to talking to you again real soon. And I hope you have a fabulous rest of this week and a good week, and have a good day. Have a wonderful, blessed time. And remember, our ways are not his ways. God is higher thoughts, higher ways. My ways are not your ways. But his ways that we do know are to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly. Humbly means with us looking up to God, not looking down at people, looking up to God. That's what humbly means. So have a good week, and I'll see you later. Bye.